Alright, I'm smoking one of these water cigarettes. Water and nicotine. But I don't want to go into that, okay? A girl writes what, who is, I think, an MRA. She's at least anti-feminist. This is perfect video hair as far as I'm concerned. I wrote some comments and, got to the point where actually I realized dumping a lot of comments in a thread might be a pain, but she gets a lot of comments, so it gets diluted. And it's a half an hour video, so it's, a half an hour and half an hour's worth of notes, right? So what made me want to start commenting is she was quoting the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. And she was talking about that even there it says that feminist ethics are gender biased. They say they should be gender biased. Well, here's what it really says, quote unquote. All feminist ethicists share the same goal, colon, the creation of a gendered ethics that aims to eliminate or at least ameliorate the oppression of any group of people. That's the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and it follows that phrase by, but particularly women, because it's feminism. It's like if I was an activist worrying about the treatment of some tribal people in Rwanda, I could do that using a philosophy that says everybody should be treated equal. Well, why are you focusing on just one maltreated group? Because it's a part of the problem and therefore a part of the solution. So that quote shows it doesn't mean that focusing on a subgroup means not caring about all groups. And girl writes what in her video goes through an exchange she had with a feminist trying to explain that and explain how these antiquated metaphors work in our mind, right? And that it's not really men versus women, it's modern people versus ancient metaphors. You guys want to protect the ancient metaphor. It's like you don't even know that's what you want to do. A couple minutes later into the video, I say, sorry, a person's mode of dress may be intended to mean something, but you can't assume what that is. And why the hell would you need to? See, she was talking about how unfair it is that if a man compliments a woman, oh, you can take that offense at that. But if the woman dresses provocatively, why can't the man take offense at that then? So my point is, you can't assume, somebody dresses provocatively, they might be trying to attract a man. But the man or anybody else can't assume what that is. One person might go nude because they're a naturalist. Or they might do it to be titillating. Oh dear, you can't assume. Why would you need to assume, though? And then another couple minutes later, I say, I don't think most feminists are saying it won't affect people sexually. If a woman dresses provocatively. It's just that you're responsible for your own sexual arousal. That means a woman is allowed to be a tease. Oh dear, how terrible. Guess what? They are allowed to, and it's common enough. One just gets used to it like any other relatively common personality type, and it's not a big problem and doesn't trick men into rape. Oh, wait. You never said that it did trick men into rape. You're just arguing that the woman is partly responsible based on how she dresses. And that's what that means. So, and Midas Mind comment replies to this one. So then, still another couple minutes later, it's a 30-minute video. I say, that's amazing. You think that dressing provocatively corners men to the same degree as literally cornering someone at a workplace? Yes or no? That's what it sounds like. That itself seems sexist. What about men that flirt or act provocatively? Is the temptation they give treated the same? Midas Mind says, Jesus Christ, Piro, is your whole battle plan based on assuming people won't watch the whole video? And I told him, no, you misapprehend. I myself am still watching the video. It's long. These are notes as I go. But I appreciate if she acknowledges and deals with some rhetoric early in the video, later in the video. And he says, Well, maybe I do misapprehend, but I just can't help but think that pointing out inconsistencies in a video specifically about inconsistencies where several examples, some of which are intertwined, of inconsistencies in their partial nature are compared with other similar examples of inconsistencies. Calling someone on an inconsistency is like calling someone on not mentioning all of whom said what in a he said, she said chain. I don't understand that. Somebody else responds, is that really what you heard about the Corning man? Yeah, it is. And Brogan goes, no one likes you because they're the in crowd. He knows who people like. Canadian Dave says, if a man dressed in a suit made up arrows pointing at his crotch and then took offense at people looking at his crotch and tried to shame them, he'd leave the scene in an ambulance. When the same happens to a woman, you expect me to weep? Wow. So basically you're saying that, if somebody leaves in an ambulance for what they wear and how they talk and being provocative, they deserve physical violence. That's because you're a caveman. Lay off the bottle before you come here and listen to a video you apparently can't comprehend. Kevin Wayne. See, it's like these people, we're going to go discuss stuff on the internet. How are we going to do that? We're going to rag at people that discuss it with us. Oh, fuck you, Kevin Wayne. And I said to him, that'd be more impressive if you understood the point. Okay, Avatar Beer Sex says, Jesus Christ, Piero, you're just a bucket of laughs, aren't you? I don't get that. I said, is no one here strong enough to address a criticism with the response? Is there nothing but bleeding that opposing views just should not come around here? Is this a protected place where men can feel safe and not threatened? Midas says, it's a computer screen. At least Midas has things to say. Okay, then I say, probably a few minutes later still, oh no, I said this to this GameFro guy. Thank you for bringing up points, I said to this guy, because he's talking about, he said, there's a series, but it's basically like, what about an extreme situation where just seeing a nipple makes a man into a rapist? Wouldn't it make sense to hide your nipples? Otherwise, all the men will end up in jail. It's like, okay, yeah, in science fiction land, there you go. Now, what about us? Is that really the situation we're at? If a man sees a nude woman, then he's got a raper. That's going to make fucking being a doctor really difficult. I pointed out a few minutes later, the mother of a prince, who is heir to the throne, has every reason to perpetuate a strict male feudalism. Nobody responds to that because that's like, wing, that's so far over their head. Jesus, it's like just wisping through the cumulus clouds to which they're not paying attention. Okay, I also said, you also missed this idea. You claim men could change the system. No. The little boy forced into the soldier jock role where they are supposed to attempt to be the alpha male is also a part of the system. Boys have no more freedom to change it than women. They might get a role with a lot of petty privileges, but those privileges do not include changing the system radically. Is anybody going to answer that? No. Phew! Okay, and then I said, sorry about all the comments, but I blame YouTube also for how it presents them. And then, and then the guy says, use Notepad. No, I want to tell you, motherfuckers. Yeah, fuck you. You use Notepad, shithead. But I am keeping notes. I can't put it all in one comment is the point, shithead. Okay. Then I said, see, I think you should take it as illuminating that I would argue looking the other way at male prison rape is a part of the patriarchy, or more broadly, the strict male hierarchical way of organizing society. This is really a social hierarchy in which gender privilege is secondary to the overall hierarchy as command and control classism. It's a real system real people believe in, specifically the royal and might makes right worldviews. So that also way over their head, but they try to answer that. Let's see, they'll probably be very insightful. Let's see. Pony Slay Station says, yes, the overwhelming number of men in prisons, homeless, and victims of suicide sure sound like a patriarchy to me. Foo! Another guy answered him, I thought Snake raped this guy to death already. You'd think he'd grow from it. I'm a beta male. I like to suck other guys' dicks like Snake Plisskenus, and oh, I'm not a part of the patriarchy, but I think conversation is like rape. So that's what I said to him. Law, yeah, no patriarchy here, just conversation is rape. Um, Another guy answering Pony Slave Station's reply to me says, technically they perpetuate the suicide, but yes, patriarchy is a myth, and women are just butthurt that the only way women make easy money is if they're hot. And men can never make easy money. Oh, and in real estate. And pretty much every feminist I've ever seen is either one, ugly, two, has been abused by a man, three, is very young and brainwashed by feminist professors. That's so, you shouldn't say shit like that, bull binking. Because we all know about projection, and you're saying you're ugly. You have been abused by women because they won't sleep with you. And three, you're very young and brainwashed by who knows what the fuck. Search feminism, you find people going, feminism, screaming about feminism, the top fucking 3 pages. And then you get this one woman going, we should all be equal, and women had it bad one time. You fucking are nuts. And then Topper says, blaming men for patriarchy theory is like blaming the slaves for the plantation system. That goes with what I said. John Brown, when people use patriarchy in the way, just insert the Lord Xenu instead. It makes just about as much sense. I don't study culture. I just told him he didn't read well. Another person had answered that comment. In other words, you're so committed to believing in patriarchy that you change its definition to fit any power relationship, regardless of the gender roles involved. No, I have more issues than feminism, and I know about cognitive science, and there's a political metaphor that is named a strict father-family metaphor. It has to do with a certain way of looking at how families and should be organized, and it gets applied out to society, and it's academically supported. It may turn out to be valid. It will need modifications, but it's a thought out there in the world that people use to process their understanding of the world and to vote. And you can read George Lakoff, or you could just shut up, but I'm not. It is broader. The feminists are just seeing an angle of a big old ancient way of looking at things. They're noticing the gender part and they're focusing on that. Great. Other people are focusing on the racial part. Other people are focusing on the money part. Other people are focusing on the big whole fucking part of the whole fucking thing. You fucking narrow-minded bitter fucks. Boris on the Rocks, this is so common of an answer. It's like, yeah, real fucking idiots like you believe in stupid shit like that, so tell me, what's my privilege then? I'm not privileged as an individual. We're not talking about individuals. You're making sweeping generalizations about how whole groups of people. But anyway, the point is, Boris, is I don't think the old feudal metaphors work in anyone's favor, really. This whole fucking subthread is about, yeah, it's wrong. People look the other way at male rape, act like that's not okay. You go find feminists that say, that doesn't matter, they're criminals. Yeah, that's fucked up. Agreed, okay? We all think that's fucked up. And then you ignore that and go, people say I'm in the rape culture and say things and make me feel hostile. You know, I have to walk on eggshells when I'm at work because it's a hostile workplace because of the sexual harassment laws. Well, that kind of sounds like what the feminists are complaining about too. You both are so worried about your hostile situations. Well, maybe you should get on the same side and convince the rest of us that have thick skin that you're not just all whiny. Okay, and then when we take those whiny parts out, there is no men's right activists left, and there's hundreds of feminists and thousands of feminists that have changed things in the world. So yeah, you guys lose. You know, you really shouldn't even want to have the fight on those kind of terms if you were smart. Cheers.